everyone. TechCrunch editor Anthony Ha is ahead, but first, this is the, and if we could put the top, there we go. This is the week all the broadcast networks and a few cable announced what their primetime lineups will look like this fall. NBC, as we speak, is wrapping up its presentation at Radio City Music Hall, and Fox takes its turn later this afternoon. NBC will hold most of its new series, including spin-offs from The Blacklist and Chicago Fire, for early 2017. Just 4 will launch this September. Time travel drama Timeless on Mondays at 10. Mandy Moore starring dramedy This Is Us Tuesdays at 9. Comedy The Good Place, co-starring Kristen Bell and Ted Danson, Thursdays at 8:30. And unscripted Caught on Camera with Nick Cannon, Fridays at 8. The Blacklist will move to Thursdays at 10. New York-produced Blind Spot Wednesdays at 8. And Superstore will come on Thursdays before The Good Place. And if you didn't hear, The Carmichael Show has been renewed for Season 3. Just like NBC, Fox will premiere the majority of its new primetime series next year. 3 series start up in September, 2 of them hit movie adaptations. Lethal Weapon will lean to Empire Wednesdays at 8, while The Exorcist goes Fridays at 9 after Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen. Son of Zorn, the non-movie entry, is a hybrid live-action animated comedy following The Simpsons Sundays at 8:30. The mid-season entries include 24 Legacy, the reboot of Prison Break, Pitch about a female baseball star, and Star, the new musical drama from Empire's creators. More on both NBC's and Fox's fall plans later this afternoon at 3 on Tomorrow Will Be Televised. More than 2,200 people headed near the Battery Tunnel last week to see TechCrunch's latest Disrupt New York conference, the first ever in Brooklyn. TechCrunch, backed by Verizon's AOL division, is a major internet source of technology news. And Disrupt had a big turnout of local entrepreneurs, some of whom want to disrupt the current TV landscape. Well, here now in our studio is TechCrunch editor and based in Brooklyn, Anthony Ha. Anthony, welcome to BK Live.
Thank you for having me.
What was the big takeaway of Disrupt?
I think, Disrupt is always an event where there's so many different, elements. So, there's not necessarily one big idea. But I will say that, it was certainly a sense that, hey, we're here in Brooklyn. It's awesome startups in Brooklyn, a lot of innovation happening in Brooklyn. So I think we were just really happy to be here.
Where's that innovation coming from?
Well, I think it's part of it is real estate related. It's just Manhattan has gotten really expensive, and people want to, start companies, start small companies, and the fact that, office space in like the Flatiron or Union Square or Soho, that's not cheap. They're coming out to Brooklyn. Speaking of smart,
there's more and more evidence that smart TV sets and smart TV devices like Roku and Google Chromecast and Apple TV are become the major consumer technology story of this year. And people like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and Crackle will tell you this is either a big way or the main way people are watching us. Is that message getting through to the smartphone and the tablet apps and the developers who are on your Disrupt exhibit floor that maybe this is the way that they could absolutely go to perhaps expand their audience?
I think that it hasn't quite reached most of them yet. I think there's a sense that this is going to be the future, whether that's, both on the smart TV side and then maybe on the virtual reality side. But, I think they feel that if they want to reach a big audience now, the way they're going to do that is through smartphones. And if they're going to focus, their resources on building one product, it's going to be on the smartphones, and then maybe start thinking about some of these other platforms.
So what is it going to take, Anthony, for people to get into television with their smartphone or tablet apps? Is it going to be somebody like Tim Cook, the head of Apple, who 9 months ago said the future of TV is apps, and sort of tried to prove it by having Airbnb and Zillow and HomeAdvisor, TripAdvisor get in with Apple TV? Is it a venture capitalist like Fred Wilson, who was at your event from Music Partners, saying, hey, we're going to fund these smart TV apps, we're going to fund interactive service, we're going to fund television stuff? What do you think it's going to take to make it happen, or to move the activity?
I think there's going to be a couple things. Certainly, like you said, Apple has already kind of opened up a store and said this is going to be a huge thing, and I think there's been some activity there, but maybe not as much as they'd hoped. And I think what's going to have to happen is, on the one hand, you're going to need to see a big hit, right? If somebody is has a home run, who's sort of like the Zynga on Facebook or whoever, or some of these big mobile apps, you need somebody who has a big success, and then other people be like, oh, that's great, I'm going to sort of follow. I think the other thing that has to happen is they want to see one platform sort of emerge as the sort of big player, and they don't want to just be sitting there thinking, oh, should I build for Apple? Should I build for one of these other smart TVs? Because, it's a lot of work versus if we can say, these guys, this is where the future is, this is the big one, then you can start to think about focusing there.
How long do you think it's going to be before we crystallize that thought, whether it is Apple TV or whether it is Roku or whether it's a Samsung or an LG set?
It seems like something that should happen soon, but I've felt like it should be happening soon for the last 5 years, so hard to say for sure.
Speaking of Apple, their Worldwide Developer Conference is coming up next month, and this will be the first time that the developers out there are going to have the opportunity to create for Apple TV. What's your sense of how much of a priority will Tim Cook and company give about the developer conference for Apple TV apps?
I think it'll be a component. I don't know that they're going to necessarily lead with it because I don't know that the numbers are there yet to really support that. I think that a lot of their energy is still going to go towards the iPhone, the iPad, and now the Apple Watch. I would imagine. I would bet that those are going to be bigger topics of conversation than the TV. The TV will be in there and part of the mix, but I don't think they're going to lead with that. I could be wrong, but that's my gut feeling.
Mm-hmm. While your conference was going on, we also had the digital content new fronts, and it was very clear from the last 2 weeks that virtual reality is very hot. Everybody was either announcing a VR series or they were announcing a studio or a lab to put VR programming together. At the same time, we're sensing that there's two camps here. There's the camp that thinks virtual reality will have a major role on the television set, and virtual reality will have a major role if you buy this headgear or helmet gear like Oculus or Gear VR or Next VR. On the floor where you were with Disrupt last week, was there a sense in terms of which way things are going, or were there both sides are going to win?
I think it was both sides because it was a lot of experimentation still. It was a lot of smaller companies being like, let's create little demos and sort of get our foot in the door, and then we'll kind of see which one's gonna take off. I mean, I do think that certainly, I mean, there was an Oculus presence and a Gear VR. I mean, people were certainly talking about all of those platforms that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Do you get a sense that VR is going to erupt on this scene faster than we all believe? I mean, you still hear conversation, it's a couple years away, but given what happened where you were last week, given the new fronts last week and the week before, where this sort of VR activity, at least in content production, is groundswelling, that VR is going to be a more of a closer than we think phenomenon?
I think it is closer than, I mean, I'm certainly someone who's been a skeptic in the past and very much, oh yeah, they've been talking about VR for 20 years now, it's never going to happen, and that I seem to have been wrong on that front. I do think that the main obstacle now is still the cost of the hardware. I mean that, if you want to buy an Oculus, it's, hundreds of dollars, plus you need to have a really high-end PC. I mean, that seems crazy to me, and I know that all the companies want to bring it down and make it more accessible, but until that happens, I mean, I think it's going to be maybe a big product, for like gamers and like sort of the TechCrunch crowd, but for everyday consumers, I think that's still quite a few years off.
Mm-hmm. What was it like for you, being a Brooklyn resident, you're based in Williamsburg, mm-hmm. to have Disrupt come to Brooklyn for the first time? And is there a possibility now that you've had it, that it comes back here next year?
Well, it was great for me because, I mean, I think that it was a sign of, I think, for a lot of people, because, Disrupt brings in people from around the world. I mean, a lot of locals as well. And I think it was great just to sort of show them, hey, like, there's stuff happening in Brooklyn. And I think that when you live outside of New York, there's sometimes a sense that New York is just Manhattan. So I think it was just really exciting to have people here, and I think it gave it a really different feel because in the past couple of years we've had Disrupt in Midtown near Penn Station, which is it's a convenient location but kind of touristy, kind of not great. And I think that being in the middle of Red Hook, where you could walk out and you go onto the main drag of Red Hook and see all these coffee shops and art galleries, like that felt like really, really great, and felt more fitting for like kind of the scrappy feel that I think we want to have at Disrupt. In terms of what's going to happen next year, I mean, that's kind of up to the events and business folks, and they don't tell me that much.
One other thing, Anthony, one of the big announcements at the event was Fred Wilson of Union Square Ventures, one of the key venture capitalists in New York, and Tim Armstrong, the head of AOL, which owns your website.
My boss's 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 boss. Some level, yeah. I lost count.
And then Verizon above. But they announced a venture where they're going to become advocates for tech startups. How is this going to happen? And could TV tech startups also be advocated for through this project?
Right. I mean, I get the sense that it was still kind of nascent, that the exact details of what's going to be involved. But I think it's going to be, sort of some financial support, some, mentorship, and whatever kind of resources that both on the venture capital side and then on the corporate side from AOL, they'll have access to, and I think that I don't think they've spoken directly to what kind of industries they'd want to support, but I'd be shocked if TV-related startups aren't part of it because media startups are such a huge part of what's happening in New York.
Okay, Tim and Fred, you got the word from Anthony, one of your key people. Make TV tech startups happen here in New York, and for the venture capital community in Brooklyn and New York, do the same too. Anthony Ha, editor of TechCrunch, great to have you back, and congratulations on Disrupt coming to Brooklyn for the first time. Hopefully back again in 2017.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
You got it. Take care. You can catch a roundup of Disrupt New York activities and much more at TechCrunch.com. Check it out. A wonderful resource of what the tech happening is all about all over the place. We have another in-studio guest for you next Monday here on BK Live. Brian Quinn, the overseer of Northside Festival's first ever content showcase. Northside is the annual Brooklyn festival with a big technology and music rep, drawing over 100,000 people last year. Sci-Fi is a new sleeper hit Friday nights, Winona Earp. It's an ultra-mod adventure with one sassy heroine. You can meet Earp herself, Mike Scrofano, and creative producer Emily Andras today at 3 o'clock on tomorrow Televised. And we'll also introduce you to Legion M. It's a new fan-centric entertainment venture with big TV plans. Plus, we'll recap NBC and Fox's fall season announcements. About 2 hours right on Blog Talk Radio. And Aaron and Brian, before we leave, a couple quick thoughts. Some of what we talked about last week. American Crime is coming back for ABC for season 3. Good Wife spinoff in the works, possibly for CBS All Access. And Supergirl is going to the CW. More about that Thursday.
CW All Access, so that means it's not going to be on broadcast? I have to do all that goofy login in?
Yeah, that goofy login, or buy a Roku, or buy a Google Chromecast, or, you know, a good smart TV set from Samsung or Vizio, LG someplace, and we'll get that way.
Stop trying to make CBS All Access happen,
well,
Moonviz.
I'm just
Let
glad
it go.
to hear that for the Lethal Weapon, that Riggs and Murtaugh are finally going to get their time on
And
TV.
again, it'll be Wednesday night, right before Empire, which will kick off a new season in September.
Who's been waiting for a Lethal Weapon?
I like Lethal Weapon. No. Are you kidding?
But I'm really happy for American Crime. But I'll tell you, really happy for American Crime. Congrats to John Ridley, and a very good decision by the new head of ABC, Channing Duguay, to make that show come back for season 3.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal show.
And a Prison Break reboot?
And don't forget, Peabody winners Saturday night, Cipriani's Wall Street. Check it out.
Very cool. We'll be looking forward to those. But really, Lethal Weapon and Prison Break reboot.
Classic kind of guy, bro.
Somebody has a DeLorean over on the Fox lot. Well, thank you, son.
88 miles per hour.